down here on level 1? So low he could parachute out of a snake's asshole.
Hey guys, this pre-stream was fucking wild, so I had to respond to it. Phil finally had to tell everyone the truth about the big thing he had planned for 2024 because Mike Clum had gone on the internet and mentioned he was working on a DSP documentary. I think it was pretty clear that Mike has either fallen for the pignosis or he was buttering Phil up like a Christmas ham. Phil says some pretty delusional retconning shit during this, so I just felt like I had to make a video about it.
Shout outs and Q&A after that, alright? Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, here's the deal. Because the rumors have already hit the internet, there's already rumblings, there's already information out there. So I am here to basically clarify everything, to clear the air, and to let you know.
Yeah, so basically Mike Clum, the guy who made the Boogie Documentary that was famous recently, he went on Kiwi Farms and admitted he's been talking to Phil about making a video, a documentary about Phil.
Exactly what is going on, alright? Last year was a very drama-filled, nonsensical year for me, against my will and against my wishes, correct? I think we can all agree.
No. I mean, Phil's going to talk about the interview he did, but it was Phil's idea to have the interview, so that was kind of all his bullshit that he created. The Keemstar bullshit was just Phil being so stupid and turning down $50,000. The LTG bullshit that Phil got into was entirely Phil's fault. He watched a random LTG detractor clip video or something and spent, 30 minutes talking about it, passively aggressively asking, "Oh, how does LTG make so much money?" As if that's not an insult. And then all of the locale live stuff, I guess, kind of might not be his fault. I mean, you could say that, but then again, the whole reason Wings and Boogie hate Phil is because he cost them $50,000 because he wouldn't be on a fucking podcast.
Last year, there was a lot of very negative talk about me on the internet, in some cases from really big YouTubers, right?
No, that was 2 years ago, Phil.
Being very...
Like, he can't even get the story straight. It was 2022 where people were talking about him negatively, which caused him to want to do the interview, which then led into the Side-Scrollers interview. So Phil can't even remember a year and a half ago.
Transparent here. When I got criticized by Moist Critical, and he was like, dude, I can't believe he's saying the things he's saying on his streams to his viewers about income and stuff like that. It seems very,
That's not what he said. He said he couldn't believe how much begging you did, Phil. No, it wasn't about your income. It was about how much, because specifically it was the Scorn clip where you were saying, "Oh, guys, I stayed overtime, and none of you gave me extra money for doing that." That doesn't have anything to do with how much money you're making.
He doesn't seem like he has any gratitude. You can't say that kind of stuff.
That's fucking true.
It struck a chord, correct?
No, what resonated with Phil was the fact that Sir Moist has several million subscribers. Because Sir Moist has said the same thing every single detractor has said about Phil for the last 10 years. Maybe even the last 15 years.
And I agreed with him after watching myself back. This is from like the fall of 2022, okay? After watching myself back, that stuff, I was like, he's right. He's absolutely right. I sometimes get so full of emotion, whether it's fear.
That's, God, he's fucking bullshitting already. Phil specifically used the word e-begging. It wasn't about... Phil mentioned how he was going to cut back on the e-begging because that's what Moist Critical called him out for. But now he's trying to retcon it.
Because of finances and stuff like that. Or it could be many different things. Anger when I'm playing Street Fighters, all these things.
Sir Moist said nothing about Street Fighter. He didn't even watch a Street Fighter clip. He watched a Scorn clip in which Phil said, "Why aren't you guys giving me more money?"
whenever I get full of emotion, I tend to just go off the cuff and say things that I probably should not publicly say, right? And I should be called out for it, rightfully. However,
people have done it for 15 years, and he's said they're all illegitimate.
I felt that at that point, there were too many people who had only heard the negative and had no idea about the positive about me. You know,
What positive?
if I'm here after 15 years and I have a community who watches me every day, likes my content and supports it, I'm doing something right.
Man, people have tapeworms for longer than you've been around, Phil. And the fact that God hasn't taken you from this mortal coil isn't something to brag about.
Right? I wouldn't still be here if I wasn't doing something right. There's people who are here for a good, positive reason.
I would guess 75% of the people watching Phil's stream on Phil's channel are trolls or LARPers or some form of person trying to fuck with him. And that doesn't count all the people that are not on his channel watching his content, that are doing it just to laugh at him or to just hate on him.
And I felt like it wasn't fair because these big YouTubers who always name drop me never examined that half of it. They only examine the negative because that's what gets thrown in their face by the toxicity of YouTube. That's how YouTube works.
Well, that's because, like, what good has Phil done? Like, he's commented before he can't do charity streams. He can't do anything except show up and beg for money. I mean, he's basically said those words before.
Promote the toxic, push the negative forward, right? And so I said, if you're going to talk bad about me, why not interview me?
Yeah, why don't people with millions of views interview Phil, who gets 200 views of video? Yeah, I'm sure it was really about getting your side of the story to the content creator and not just trying to milk the content creator's viewers.
Correct? Like, why not just talk to me directly? Because if I felt like
because you never want to talk to anyone, Phil. You always come up with an excuse about. I mean, just look at the Keemstar situation. I mean, I know it's a little different with Keem because Phil just hates Keemstar for some reason. But he wouldn't even pick up the phone. He barely even responds in DMs to people. Like, he was so fucking two-faced with fucking Review Tech USA. I mean, nothing good can be said about Review Tech USA. But even when when Rich's daughter was in the hospital, like, Phil was so fucking two-faced about that shit. And Phil's wondering why no one wants to talk to him. Because he's a lying scumbag piece of shit who goes out of his way not to talk with, or not to interact with people. I mean, he'll talk at people. He'll throw fucking bombs on Twitter at other people. He'll never engage in a conversation.
someone would just have a conversation with me to see that I'm a real guy. I'm not just some asshole who you see the negative highlights of, but I'm actually just a real person. Perhaps you'd think a little differently, all right? So I presented that to the internet, and basically the only people who contacted me were drama brokers and people who were looking to boost their own presence on YouTube.
AKA they had less subscribers than Phil.
You know, it wasn't like a Moist Critical.
Moist Critical, I don't know, I hope no one who enjoys Charlie's stuff is too angry with this, but Charlie is a drama streamer. That's what he does. He reacts to drama on the internet. Like, has Phil watched any of his content? Probably not.
Review Tech USA, you know. Oh, let's do an interview. No, you already every day name drop me because you don't make your own content. You just make drama, and you name drop me for drama purposes. You have no...
I mean, what's the difference between Review Tech USA and Charlie, other than Review Tech USA actually knows a thing or two about Phil?
Content of your
own. I mean, they're kind of just in the same sphere.
You're out of your mind.
At least in my eyes.
I wanted to have a real conversation with someone, and it didn't happen.
No, you didn't want a conversation. You wanted an interview. That's not the same thing.
Happen, right? So then fast forward to March. And what happened was completely unrelated to anything in that realm of discussion, okay? Side Scrollers was a new podcast that was relaunching on the internet. It was a podcast that was run
This
by
seems
someone
such
who
like
ran
such
someone who
bullshit.
in the past, over a decade ago, I had great dealings with. I would go onto a convention as a guest when I was at the height of my YouTube popularity, and it was his convention. He had me there as a guest.
You realize he didn't hand pick you, Phil, right? I mean, Phil can't be this delusional, can he? Like, they probably invited hundreds of people to these conventions as, the guests, right? Do you think side scrollers pick them all individually, or
Before then, I'd actually hung out with this guy at another convention, MagFest.
I wonder what that means? I mean, Phil's so delusional, he probably could have walked by the guy in the elevator and said hello, and that's hanging out with the guy.
I was a fan of their website 15 years ago.
How the fuck are they supposed to know about that?
So he had reached out to me and said, "Hey, I know we haven't talked."
So Phil says it has nothing to do with Phil wanting to have an interview, but they reached out to him after Phil publicly asked for a public interview. So the whole reason side scrollers talked to Phil at all, considering the second most of the people on side scrollers had no idea who the fuck Phil was when they talked about how they were going to interview him. Half the people on the panel were like, "Who the fuck is this dude?" So the only reason they ever reached out to Phil is because he asked for a public interview.
In years, but we're looking for guests for our show. And I said, I'll be a guest, why not? And I saw their show, and their show is a variety show. Well, their show was a variety show where they would talk about games and news. Now it's not anymore. Now they've actually used my interview as a platform to change their show and get popularity. But we'll talk about that later.
This is such fucking delusional shit. I can't believe it. Because Phil claims he's not like a political streamer. So what the fuck? How could they have used Phil's interview to boost their popularity in a field that Phil is not a part of? How does that make any fucking sense? Like, I don't know. No need for a metaphor. I mean, just Phil has nothing to do with the content they're making now, and they're still popular.
So basically, I say, I'll be a guest on your show, but then they completely changed the deal. The deal was originally, I'm just going to be a guest. We'll talk about variety of topics. It'll be a fun show. Then it becomes, oh, well, what we want to do is we want to be the exclusive place for you to finally get that interview that you've always wanted.
And you agreed, Phil.
I didn't really always want an interview. I only wanted the interview because people were talking so negative.
Look, you spent like 6 months asking for an interview. Now, oh, I never wanted an interview. Yes, you did. I can't believe the rate at which he just lies
about me, right? So I was promised that this was going to be a fair interview.
It was.
Where I was going to be able to say my piece about.
You had 5 hours to do it.
All this stuff that people say about me over the years. And then after the interview, basically, I was going to get to be a guest on the show.
Again, this is like a half-truth. Phil assumed that after the interview, he would be a regular guest on their show. Not. I don't know if they said that in writing.
That I needed to get through this interview first, but once I did, I could be a guest, and it would be just like everyone else who'd been on the show. At that point, for over a month, people had been guests on the show. No one else had to go through an interview, just.
But no one else had publicly asked for an interview, Phil. Did you ever think about that?
Me, okay? So I do this interview, okay? I get paid nothing for this interview for the
It's a fucking interview. What? Why would you get paid for it?
Record. It's just me giving them over 5 hours of my time. Come to find out, was this a fair interview? No.
Yes.
All they had done was talk to all of my haters and detractors for like weeks.
Phil, they asked for everyone on both sides of the issue to talk to them. Literally no one talked about why Phil was a good person. The only people who cared enough to talk to Craig were detractors.
All of their negative side of the story, literally never spoke to a single person about the positive side of things.
Because none of them exist.
Negative shit about me.
What positive? what positive stuff is there to research about Phil other than God hasn't taken him from this mortal coil yet? Is there anything?
Into the interview with the mindset that they wanted to get me to confess to all these.
Adam literally knew nothing about you, Phil. The reason at the end of the video, or at the end of the interview, he was asking you to confess is because you come across like a guilty fucking snake oil salesman.
These heinous things that I had done over the years. Wow, that's a great way to approach an interview, isn't it? They lied and told everyone that the next day after the interview, they were going to have a decompression show where they play games. And
well, they did have a decompression show. It's just for the 5-hour interview, they had a lot of things to say, and they didn't want to distract everyone with pointless games.
And then they were going to have a follow-up interview with me later. None of that happened. After the
well, the reason there was no follow-up interview is because of you, Phil.
Instead, they did a hit piece on me. Basically,
a hit piece in which they just read super chats and offered their opinions about what Phil said. I don't know, it's this thing Phil says about the interview where because Adam and Craig were in the interview, they aren't allowed to give their opinions at all, ever, about how the interview went. Maybe that's good practice while in the interview, but after the interview, I mean, they talked to you for 5 hours and didn't believe a fucking word you said. Like, what are they not supposed to say anything ever?
for a whole day, they just crapped on me and made all negative references and took in a ton of money, thousands of dollars.
The thing that pissed Phil off the most is that they made $2,000. Originally, Phil thought they made $20,000, and that's why he got super mad. But I guess one of his little birds contacted him in emails and said, Phil, actually, it was only $2,000, not $20,000.
They received from my detractors and haters. Not only that day, but they continued to milk this.
Would Phil have been fine if they made $20,000 from Phil's fans? That's an interesting question. Is Phil only mad because they made money from his haters? If fucking, what was his name? That big whale, King Tut, had showed up and gifted them, what, $20,000 on their decompression stream and said, wow, Phil's amazing. Thanks for interviewing him. Do you think Phil would be sitting here saying anything? Or do you think he'd be saying the exact same fucking thing?
For weeks on end and months. It was months later. Stuttering Craig was trying to get me on the show or get onto my content. He wanted to play Street Fighter 6 with me. This guy would not stop. Basically,
I think he only did like 5 or 6 streams about Phil. They were cringe as hell. Because I don't know, he's almost a denthead himself. And he clearly doesn't really understand Phil, but whatever.
He saw me as a big cash cow and he wanted
because you fucking are, Phil.
Coattails. Now, since that show, all right, they have basically gotten some notoriety in the conservative political community, which is hilarious because when they...
I don't know, I don't watch any of their stuff. I mean, I see it recommended occasionally because I've seen the DSP video.
And they've turned it into a right-wing political show. That's their show.
So, I have no idea.
All bolstered by when I was on it. And by the way...
Which... I can't believe Phil says this. Like, he tries to say, oh, I sit on the fence and I'm, can tell you everything you need to know about wood because I sit on the fence so much. But then he says that this fucking crazy extremist political channel got all of their popularity from interviewing him. Phil clearly isn't thinking this through.
My interview continues to be the most watched thing they've ever done. The funny part about it is the interview never actually did anything in the realm of what I wanted. The whole point of the interview...
Which is just a wild fucking retcon, because how many fucking times last year did Phil say the interview did exactly what I wanted it to? It took all of the negative elements and put them away from my channel and put them all on this video, and now if anyone has any questions, I can just tell them to look at this video because my answers will never change. It's what I perceived. I forget how he worded it, but he didn't even say it was the truth. He said it was something. It's like how I perceive the truth to be is what I presented in that interview. Fucking stupid.
That I wanted to do was that people who don't know about me can watch the interview, learn, and then there's no questions anymore about that stuff. In the end, all that interview ever did was it went around my detractor circles. That's
Phil, there aren't 200,000 people. Well, I mean, there might be, but there aren't 200,000 people that are your detractors. I mean, that's how many views that video has now. I imagine a lot of them are from detractors, but I mean, if you look at the comments at that video, a lot of the people are like, wow, I've never heard of Phil. He seems like a scumbag piece of shit. He seems like he's lying every fucking second of this video. And of course, there are people who are commenting on the video and they don't like Adam or they don't like Craig or whatever, but a lot of people, fucking taking a Philism here, a lot of the people in the comment section of that video have no idea who the fuck you are.
it. It didn't actually hit mainstream. No one really cared about that interview outside of the detractors. So it didn't.
It's a weird thing for him to say that, because if that was one of Phil's videos, I think that would be what, the third or fourth highest video view count video Phil's ever made. He's got the million view Fallout 4 video on KO Gaming. I think he has one or two videos that have like 500,000 views, and then he's got another like 200,000 view video. So if this 200,000 view video was on KO Gaming, it'd probably be like the fifth highest viewed video on that. Phil's claiming that somehow this didn't go mainstream.
Really?
I mean, probably the only reason Mike Clum is even interested in Phil. One of the reasons is this interview.
Get to serve the purpose, but I'll say this, at the very least, basically all the bullshit about those negative things, those questions, those accusations, the conspiracies, it all went away. If you don't notice, no one really comes up.
It didn't go away, Phil.
I've already said my piece.
The reason no one comments about it on your stream anymore is because you've got that place locked down like you're the fucking Fuhrer bunker.
And I'm not wasting time anymore with that.
Yeah, you just banned them.
I told you guys, I'm done with those topics.
It has nothing to do with the interview. It has to do with the fact he just bans anyone who asks.
So, after that,
and because there's always new shit to comment on.
My philosophy to stay out of drama, and I said I'm not going to be.
Except he fucking didn't. He would always go back and forth with fucking Keem and the Locale Live podcast. He went back and forth with LTG over fucking Street Fighter 6 cage match or whatever they were gonna do. Like, this guy just can't stay out of the drama.
Doing any interviews. I'm not going to be doing any kind of anything with anyone. Even though people did reach out to me, oh, I want to interview Phil and this or that. Even, what's his name? Mudahar or whatever. He reached out to me. Oh, I'm going to pay you $5,000 for an interview. And I said, I don't want your money.
I can't believe this doesn't make any fucking sense. He just complained that the interview he did with Side Scrollers, he got paid nothing for. And now when Mudahar says, oh, okay, I'll give you 5 bands, Phil. Phil says, I don't want money. Which is it, man? Like, can this guy just stop lying for 10 seconds?
I'll do an interview, but we're not talking about this drama. I've already addressed it. All the conspiracy.
There's nothing else to talk with you about, Phil.
If you want to have an intelligent discussion about interesting topics, I'll do it.
What topics could Phil make interesting? He doesn't want to comment on political stuff other than fucking ride a fence post up his ass as he sits on the fence for every fucking issue as he claims he's not political. Just, like, what could he make interesting? Like, he can't comment on Street Fighter 6. He doesn't understand how the game works. He doesn't understand drive impact. He still, for 20 years, has failed to understand how rollback netcode works. Like, what could Phil give an interesting take on? I mean, that's a question I'd love anyone to answer.
The moment you bring up drama, I'm gone. And then he ghosted me and never contacted me ever again.
Yeah, because the only thing interesting about you is the drama, Phil.
Talk about facts like fucking mature adults.
Facts about what? If they're not talking about drama, like what facts are they talking about? Like, oh wow, Phil, it says here on Social Blade, you have 300,000 views a month. Okay? What the fuck are they going to talk about if not drama? Like, this guy is a reality TV show.
All they want is milk drama so they can make money on YouTube. They're all fucking greedy.
Oh shit, they're
So anyway,
YouTubers.
I stayed out of it completely.
He fucking knows Moist Critical talks with Mudahar, right? Right? Like, he's willing to suck off Sir Moist, who does podcasts with Mudahar.
100%. And I didn't address
This guy has no
any more of
fucking
the bullshit for the rest of 2023, and things went smoothly. However,
except he would constantly talk about the fucking Lolcow Live podcast about, oh, wasn't I so smart for not taking Keemstar's $50,000 to be on a podcast that never came out? Which is fucking mind blowing that he thinks that's a W. Except the podcast did come out, and they've talked about him several times, and Phil has responded to that shit, but no, he stayed out of the drama.
there was still
Or the LTG thing, which I don't think he's going to bring up.
people who tried to pull me in, right? These idiots trying to get me to go on a fucking podcast that I was never involved in whatsoever.
Never involved in, but remember when Phil was saying that the podcast didn't happen because he wasn't on it? That they couldn't do it without Phil? Because Phil's the king of the lolcows and he's the best court jester that's ever been? Fucking
lied about that, trying to make shit up and talking shit about me. People making documentaries about me, right? Which is hilarious. The whole
Turkey Tom
documentary is
was a documentary.
because if all you do is research shit that's already on the internet and you regurgitate it into a 2-hour video and all you do is add a little bit of commentary, that's not a documentary.
Then how can you do a documentary about things that have ever happened? Like, how can you do a documentary on something that took place in the past? Like, I said this in one of the chats of people while we were watching this shit live, but like, Phil's suggestion here is that you couldn't do a documentary on World War II unless you time traveled back into France in 1940. Like, this is such a stupid opinion. Just total bullshit.
Everyone else did work for you. All you did was regurgitate the toxicity and the conspiracy. You added really nothing besides a little bit of commentary on top. That's not a documentary.
And that is.
Add any.
I mean, even if it was just the conspiracy theories, you can have documentaries about conspiracy theories.
All it does is kind of summarize all the negative shit people have said.
Yeah, that's basically what a documentary is.
All that going on, right? People come, oh, will you do an interview with the guy who did the documentary and this or that? And ultimately,
Phil wanted to do an interview with that guy. He's of course talking about Turkey Tom here, but when that video first came out, Phil was totally down for doing an interview with that guy until he went on some podcast, I can't remember which one, but talked about how basically admitted he was put up to it by Keemstar, and then Phil changed his mind.
No, I'm not doing any of that, right? I'm staying out. And the funny part is, someone actually asked me a question last year, and it resonated with me. They said, you know, Phil, all these people on the internet are constantly talking.
Is one of the voices in his head?
Any of these people, do they ever actually, like, reach out to you to talk to you?
That was Phil who said this. I'm 100% positive that after the Side Scrollers interview, maybe when he was begging for the interview, he said this, but this is, like, he can't even take, I don't know, he can't even be responsible for his own fucking thoughts at this point.
Did they ever go to you for information or to get your side of the story or whatever?
That's what you said, Phil.
Honestly, no. Not once. In all this time, 15 years I've been on YouTube and all the negative videos and the documentaries and everything done, not once has anyone ever made a legit effort to get my actual side of anything.
Like, what would they get from Phil? Like, what could you possibly ask this guy about his... I mean, we saw it in the Side Scrollers interview. This guy, if he's not delusional, he's just lying through his teeth.
Instead, it's always we believe all the toxic shit and just report the toxic shit. And
The Side Scrollers interview literally asked you for a confidential proof that it's not Phil's account on this WWE Champions. And Phil couldn't do that. What the fuck makes you think? What makes anyone think that Phil could provide any sort of answer to any question a documentary wants? It's just not total bullshit.
that's it. Even the Side Scrollers interview, which at first seemed like it was going to be neutral, was
It was
an actual attempt to get me to basically fess up to shit I didn't do.
only at the end of the interview did they do that.
For their own purposes. They wanted to be
Why would they fucking care, man? Like Phil,
the group to, oh my God, look, we did it. We got Dark Side Phil to spill the beans on everything, and now we can be notable because of it, and it didn't work.
except he just said, what, 5 minutes ago, that the entire reason their channel took off was because of this interview? And now, oh, the interview didn't work.
Because it's not the shit they were trying to get me to do.
Oh my God.
To begin with. So obviously it never was going to work. These people were fucked up, all right?
Yeah, they weren't fucked up until they made thousands of dollars off of the interview.
So basically, I stayed out of all of this all year.
That's so fucking delusional. That's just not what happened.
Right? Always
Not even close to what happened.
I'm always wondering, and I've told you guys this too. I don't think anyone's ever going to give me a fair shake on the internet. I just don't believe it. It seems like everyone is out for the drama. Everyone.
That should really tell you something, Phil. That every person you've ever interacted with stabs you in the fucking back.
Everyone's out for personal gain. What's better? To completely spin something in a way that makes me look horrible for clickbait views that will benefit you, or to actually show me in a fair light. I'm not even saying...
What would be a fair light for Phil? A guy who's known on the internet for being the king of hate. I mean, he was the king of hate for 20 years. So, like...
show me in a positive light. I'm saying show me in a fair light to actually have another side of the story, to see what it's actually like from my perspective, to go
see what from Phil's perspective. Like how he blew through $2 million in the past 15 years and has literally nothing to show for it. I mean, is that what he's talking about? Is he talking about how every friend he's ever had has abandoned him? And I mean, basically every single person Phil's ever interacted with, their relationship ended with like a drama video. I mean, I know John and Howard had that big video, but that's basically every single person Phil's ever interacted with ends like that.
Go through this, to live through all of this slander.
I mean, fucking Air Raid Lord did that too.
And nonsense that's happened to me for all these years.
It's only slander if you can prove it false, Phil.
To just be a guy trying to get by with my community and having a good...
Get by. God, I hate it. I know... I hate this for two reasons. One, because a lot of people fall for Phil's bullshit that he's not a huge fucking YouTuber. Because I have to say this, because a lot of people just get it wrong. Phil is absolutely a huge streamer. And the reason for that is because 90% of people who stream to single-digit viewers. Phil streams to several hundred viewers. He's in the top 10% of streamers. He makes 6 figures a year. Phil's not a small streamer, so I hate it when people fucking pretend like he is and fall for this fucking pig noses. That's why I get pissed when he says shit about how he's just a small-time YouTuber. It's a fucking lie and people keep falling for it.
Bullshit, and then having to hear that constantly this stuff is going on outside, right? So, basically, all right, I got contact.
Get with it. Okay.
Who is a new...
You can just say his name.
Someone who...
He's already... Mike Clum has already come out and said he's doing it. Phil doesn't have to fucking pussyfoot around this.
By actually...
He doesn't have anything... Phil, he's making money from being a documentarian. Of course he stands to benefit from getting you and making a documentary about you.
Portraying me.
I think Mike fucking greased this fucking pig up.
It basically, let me put it this way. If you're someone who wants to actually make real content, if you're not someone who's a drama hound, if you're not someone who is, again, a Keemstar, a review tech.
This guy went on Kiwi Farms asking for people to talk to him.
If you're someone who actually wants to make legit content, then you actually have to be fair. Because the moment that you're not, who else would ever want to work with you again?
Desperate people like, I don't know, DSP, Boogie, basically any lolcow out there.
Right?
It's strange how Phil says this guy isn't trying to milk drama or some shit in the first 2 fucking documentaries he does. Fucking Boogie, 1488 or whatever his name is, and then fucking DSP, the King of Hate. But apparently this guy's not trying to milk drama. Fucking please, his first 2 documentaries are about 2 fucking lolcows.
If you portray someone in an unfair way that makes them look awful, then no one else is ever going to want to work with you.
Did he watch the fucking Boogie documentary? That did not paint him in a good manner at all.
Either.
Might have been a fair
some way where you're
documentary.
Being fair to the subject matter. All right?
But again, Phil's confusing fair with good. Like, a fair portrayal is the same as a good portrayal. Like, Boogie got a fair portrayal, and it made him look like shit. So basically, that's probably what's going to happen with Phil.
I was contacted by Mike Clum, who recently did a documentary on Boogie. And before everyone freaks out about this, because I know a lot of people saw the Boogie documentary and were like, wow, that documentary was not positive. That documentary was very negative. It shows all the weaknesses of Boogie, all his shortcomings, the fact that he basically pissed
now this is the good part.
His life away, all his money away, that he's a toxic guy who falls into drama and he has all these issues. You're right.
Phil, what the fuck do you think the documentary about you is going to be like? I really, Phil. I mean, the thing you got to remember about Phil is he's made probably $2 million in the past 15 years off of this YouTube shit he's doing. And then he went a further $500,000 in debt. So this guy has spent $2.5 million in the past 15 years. And he has literally nothing to show for it. He foreclosed one of his homes he no longer owns. The home he's currently living in is literally falling apart. His dishwasher doesn't work. His laundry machine doesn't work. 2 of the 2.5 bathrooms in his house don't work. He's fucking got his garage stacked to the fucking roof with trash. Like, Phil, let's play that again.
This is a Boogie, all his shortcomings, the fact that he basically pissed his life away, all his money away.
What has Phil done? Like, he literally has nothing to show for what he's done with his money. Like, that's the thing. If it's not WWE champions, which, I don't know, I still think it's possible, but that's a me issue because I can't imagine spending a tenth of what he spent on a mobile game. Like, it's just not conceivable to me. So I think it's still somewhat possible it's something other than WWE champions. But it has to be something like that. Because there's, like, I hate to steal something from Tevin, but, like, how is this guy not accidentally owned something cool for all the money he's made? Like, how does he have nothing to show for it? But he's talking about how, oh, that Boogie documentary, they showed what an idiot he was with money. What are they going to show when they talk about your money, Phil? Like, literally, what are they going to show? Like, Phil talking about, my new plan is to take out a fucking second mortgage on my home. A home equity loan. I'm going to put myself another $100,000 in debt. Does he think that's going to make him look good? Mind blowing how Phil can say this stuff about the Boogie documentary that's going to be made by the same fucking guy that's going to do his documentary and think his is going to turn out any fucking different.
That he's a toxic guy who falls into drama and he has all these issues.
What the fuck happened in the last year with you, Phil? You had the Side Scrollers interview, complete fucking drama. The Keemstar and Lol Cow podcast, complete fucking drama. The LTG bullshit you tried to do, complete fucking drama. That fucking Baldur's Gate 3 bullshit you did, complete fucking drama. Phil, you're literally describing how your documentary is going to be literally the same as Boogie's. And you're so deluded. Or maybe Mike has just greased this guy up. And Phil thinks he's sitting on the fucking moon talking to this guy. But Phil's literally telling you in these couple of sentences what the Phil documentary is going to be about. So let's go back a little bit and play that again.
Negative. It shows all the weaknesses of Boogie, all his shortcomings, the fact that he basically pissed his life away, all his money away, that he's a toxic guy who falls into drama and he has all these issues. You're right.
Yeah, that's what your documentary is going to be, Phil. I hate to break it to you. Because what else could it be?
But that's what they wanted to do with that documentary, you understand? That's
I don't know if that's true. Like, I find that hard to believe that Boogie... I mean, I know Boogie's a piece of shit, and, like, he constantly throws pity parties, so maybe that is what Boogie wanted, was a documentary completely devoted to a fucking pity party. But what is a Phil documentary going to be, if not the exact same fucking thing?
actually what they wanted to portray in that documentary. That was the whole point. To show that side of his life, which I guess they felt had never been really revealed before.
But what side of Phil's life is the documentary going to show that's never been showed before? That's not the exact same fucking pity party that the Boogie documentary was made.
That's exactly what they were going for, okay? I was contacted by Mike, and he says, basically, this is fascinating. There's people out there who want to see a documentary about you, but he didn't know that much about me, okay?
And neither did the Side Scrollers, and look how that turned out.
So, by the way, and just for the record, this was months ago. This was not yesterday. This was months ago.
I wonder if someone can go back and figure out when they started talking and what that lines up with.
Okay, where we actually began talking behind the scenes about...
Because that would have been, what, November?
And basically through a series of conversations, okay, that I had with this guy, as I explained my story to him, he was basically like, so this is completely different from Boogie. Yeah, it's not...
I think this Mike guy was fucking giving Phil the reach around and just greased him up like a fucking Christmas ham. Because I don't know if I've ever heard Phil this delusional about his own self.
Not even close. My life is nothing like his. I'm not in the situation he's in. You know, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, and other people can disagree.
Total bullshit.
I feel like in my position is a much better position than his. You know,
I fucking blow me away, Phil.
I mean, like him, he's in horrible health.
Phil, the health thing, Phil has been teasing for what, 5 years, maybe more? This behind the scenes health thing that he's constantly been battling but hasn't told anyone, has been holding in his back pocket for, you know, if he ever needs like a super emergency bag, like Save the House 10.0 or something. So he's been teasing this behind the scenes health emergency for years. But apparently it's Boogie is the one. It's the same fucking thing, man. How does Phil not get this?
Financially, he's distraught.
Financially, just a couple months ago, or I guess a couple days ago, Phil was talking about how his entire financial year was put behind because he missed 3 days for the Halloween stream. And how that set him back so much. And oh my God, if we can't make the tip skulls, guys, me and Kat are gonna have to live in Jenna's van. Oh, but no, Phil's actually not in financial distress, even though he says every day before he goes on his day off that, guys, you need to make sure you give me money so I can pay for my groceries. Oh no. Oh no, what am I gonna do for Jasper?
His. You know what I mean? Like him, he's in horrible health. Financially, he's distraught. He can't make ends meet. He's desperate, which is why he's on things like this lolcow show where he's getting on his hands and knees and being mistreated by Keemstar to make money.
But that's somehow worse than taking a fucking tin can every day, 6 days a week, full time, and saying, guys, I'm getting really nervous. We haven't hit the tier 1 tips goal yet.
He's in a real desperate way, right? That's very much.
And you're not, Phil? Like, I can't believe he just said this stuff about how, oh, they made a documentary about Boogie, about how he's financially destitute, he has bad health, and he's just so desperate to turn his life around. Phil, have you looked in the mirror recently? That's what a DSP documentary is going to be. The exact same thing.
Not the case. Okay? With me, I have a successful business.
And you declared bankruptcy a couple years ago. Your tips are down. Your views on YouTube are fucking in the toilet. I mean, he was just talking just a couple months ago about how he's convinced that YouTube enacted a conspiracy of views for the past decade because during the winter he was making more money in ad revenue despite having lower views, and he fucking does that every fucking year when he talks, oh, I don't know, it's the winter, my views are down, but my ad revenue is the same. Yeah, no shit, because you get more money for ads in the fucking winter. So with lower views, you can get more money.
I enjoy coming to stream with you guys every day. I love what I do for a living.
Except he was just fucking complaining just a couple days ago about his fucking React stream or React channel fucking hitting the toilet in fucking interest. But yeah, he loves that.
I'm making it happen, right? I'm getting out of a horrible financial position in my life.
And he wants to get back into it by fucking taking out a home equity loan for what, like $100,000 or something, and fucking he'll never own his home.
Which happened already, and I'm climbing out of it. It's slow progress.
God, I can't believe he still does this shit. It's been years. So if you go back to the bankruptcy, the number calculated on the farms for how much Phil was making in minimum monthly payments was between $2,000 and $3,000 a month in minimum payments. He hasn't paid that because of the bankruptcy for what, 3 years now? And he's only just starting to get out of the hole. What hole? He has no debts to pay. So what hole could he possibly, because of the bankruptcy? So he's not making minimum payments. He owes nobody any money. How is he not out of a financial hole after getting a bankruptcy and his income has stayed mostly the same? Can anyone even attempt to explain that?
But it's definitely progress, right? My story is basically that
the exact same as Boogie's.
I've made all of these improvements over the years.
I'm sorry, what?
And I am not representative of what people make me out to be anymore. Maybe one day, 10, 15 years ago, I was really bad.
He was the king of hate until last year.
I was obstinate, I was stubborn, I was stupid, I said...
Phil needs to go back and watch some of his fucking, those, suggestion box streams where he shot down literally every single suggestion. Literally every single one.
Did awful things, right? And I got away with it, basically. And now here
That was a fucking Freudian slip if I ever heard of it.
we are 15 years later, and I'm still able to run a business, albeit a much smaller scale business than what I used to. to do. But I'm
That really makes you wonder how much fucking money he was making at the height of his machinima shit. Like, if a six-figure income is just, that's a really small business for me. I mean, fucking how much money? I mean, we kind of know, right? He was making, what, $30,000 a month working for machinima? Working.
still popular. I still have a fan base, and people still talk about me, right?
The biggest video about you in the past, what, several years was a fucking interview where you came off like a greasy fucking scam artist.
The problem is constant misrepresentation. And you might say, well, I don't get it because you
It was
already
5 hours of your own voice, Phil.
right. I have addressed all of the bullshit and nonsense out there. However, I addressed it here, right? And no one listens to me when I say it on my own content. No one.
Well, that's because when you fucking responded to Sir Moist, you spent 45 fucking minutes doing it.
This is me talking to my audience who already it's like what do they call it? You're
Preaching to the cult.
You guys already know the deal, right? The fact is most people don't. There's no
How does Phil explain that nobody wants, like, how does Phil, I don't know, square the circle of no one listens to his answers to all the drama and bullshit, which he does provide, but no one gives enough of a shit to actually listen to him? Why does he think it's going to change with the documentary?
central place you can go on the internet for the story of Darkside Phil. It's this detractor content, this documentary that's
It's also your content, Phil. Like, why is no one going to your content? Can he answer that? Like, why has no one... Okay, so, I mean, I guess the answer is all the people that have checked out Phil for themselves are making detractor videos about him. I mean, that has to be the only reason.
Dated information.
But I wonder what he would say.
Just regurgitates the detractor conspiracy theories. There's literally nowhere you can go to say, I want to learn about Darkside Phil. Why does everyone talk about this guy? I don't get it. And get an actual answer that's fair and makes sense.
What about the Frederick Knudsen video about him that Phil reviewed for, what was it, like 12 fucking hours on a React stream? And Phil said was actually a pretty good video, even though it was, what, it was made in 2017 and it's really fucking outdated?
Okay? And so,
I mean, maybe that's why people go to detractor videos. The last major documentary about Phil was in 2017, and then there was the Turkey Tom video this year.
after having talked to Mike, all right, the idea that we came up with was to do a documentary that's going to be for the first time ever, and I'm going to say this, likely for the last time ever.
So what's Phil going to do in 10 years from now when he's done a bunch of more shit? Because does he really think this documentary is going to make every single detractor say, wow, we were so wrong about Phil? I guess I'll just delete all of my videos. No, there are going to be people doing this shit 10 years from now because this guy ain't going to fucking change. He ain't going to stop making videos on the internet.
Cover my actual real story. Me growing up, what it was like, right?
Yeah, because Phil lived such a fucking hard life in a lower middle class home where he went to private school. Yeah, that's such a fucking out there story that everyone on the internet wants to hear about. Oh, Phil asked his parents for an SNES for Christmas, and they bought it. What a fucking interesting story.
Right? How I got in.
I mean, he could have the story about how his friend T got killed, but I hate to break it to you, Phil. That story is about T, not about you.
Into games, you know? What it was like when I was a kid. Asked my parents, you know, what was it like raising Phil and stuff like that.
Why would that be an interesting question? like that blows my mind that he thinks that's an interesting question. Like, how narcissistic do you have to be that you would think other people would care to ask your parents about how amazing it was to raise you as a child? Even though he's talked about his fucking high school stories before, where he was what he fucking wore fucking Punisher t-shirts and fucking trench coats to school. I mean, take whatever you want from that. I mean, there was the story about when he got in the car crash and he was like, "Parents, I'm never going to talk to you again. I'm going to do whatever I want." Is that supposed to make you look good, Phil? Like if people ask your parents about, "Hey, you remember that time Phil drove the car and got in a car crash and burned half his face off?" And you asked, "Why were you doing that, Phil? Why weren't you doing what we told you to? You nearly got yourself killed." And Phil said, "Why don't you care about me?" Is that supposed to make Phil look good? That's going to make you look even worse than basically. If a million people saw that, Phil, what percentage of them do you think are going to think that you look like a piece of shit?
Right? Going through the arcade days, going through the Street Fighter days, growing up in arcades, and how it became this kind of, how do they say, almost fraternity culture.
Which is really fucking weird of Phil to say, because he was like in his teenage years at these fucking arcades. And if you wanted to talk about arcade culture, there's already 100 fucking documentaries about that on YouTube, probably, about people who are way more educated than Phil. Because if you remember, at least in the early years that Phil was in the arcades, he was just playing random people. It wasn't like he was part of the huge scene or anything.
And shit talking was encouraged, right? And how that
He's trying to like low key justify why he talks so much shit in Street Fighter with his New Year's resolution about how he's not going to insult people, and now he's just trying to say, "Oh, it's not my fault." You know, I grew up in the arcades where people talk shit, and that means that when I'm playing online in the comfort of my own home, I need to tell people that the world would be a better place if they weren't here. I mean, that makes so much fucking sense.
Into my competitive Street Fighter career in the 2000s, and how it became an innate part of who I was for a very long time.
Except for that time someone actually confronted you. His name was Jaha, and Phil got down on his hands and knees and begged for forgiveness and tried to make himself the most pathetic fucking individual in the world by saying he was just a stupid alcoholic, and he would let them beat him up.
How eventually, after having a back injury and deciding to quit competitive Street Fighter, how that turned into a job becoming a YouTuber, right?
That story was so fucking retconned, I can't believe it. He got the back injury after he quit being a pro fighting, or basically his pro fighting career. Right? I mean, I don't even know if Phil knows this fucking story of his back injury that either got in high school or he got in a car crash or it just went bad one day or it was genetic. I don't know if Phil fucking knows. I mean, ALT did a WPIG story about it, so maybe go watch that. But the back injury had nothing to do with Phil quitting Street Fighter. Like, he had quit Street Fighter by the time he got the back injury. And the back injury had nothing to do with him entering YouTube. He entered YouTube because he got fired from his helicopter job, which had nothing to do with his back injury. Like, oh, I can't believe he just lies like this.
And how I somehow got this popularity doing content on YouTube that not very many people were doing.
Well, because he just fucking scammed the algorithm back in the day. He would upload what, like 30 videos a day?
Right? The improv commentary style.
The drunk commentary style.
Right? I was the innovator. The video game playthrough back in
I think fucking Chris Chan did playthroughs before Phil did.
For that, because they wanted, oh, it was this person or this person. I was the person who made it mainstream popular on YouTube. And then everyone...
I don't know why Phil says this. I literally had no idea who this guy was when he was at the height of his popularity. So, like, the idea that he invented this stuff, and I was on the internet in those days, watching YouTube, watching back in the day, Justin TV. I'd never heard of this guy.
Else decided to run with it and change it up and do it differently, but I was the guy who made that improv commentary style popular. All right.
Even though he copied AVGN and Nostalgia Critic. Fucking make that one make sense.
Then after that, you know, the entire story of how I became popular for a 2 or 3 year period. I was one of the top YouTubers, but then
Because you just spammed videos.
Public opinion against me.
I don't get it. How can This Is How You Don't Play, which just shows Phil's own content in a condensed form, turn people against him? Like, I don't even think there was some. I guess you could say there was some commentary in This Is How You Don't Play because they had YouTube comments posted into the video. But there was no commentary. Essentially, there was no, like, as you would call it today, like detractor content where people do this kind of stuff where they talk over Phil's videos. So how could showing clips of Phil's own content be the reason people turned on Phil? And it somehow also not be Phil's fault. Can Phil square that circle?
How it turned the crowd against me and how that affected me, how these groups of detractors formed online.
There was one group of detractors, the SOK.
How it changed everything. How
although there might have been a couple other ones.
Ruined the business and how I went on a big decline.
I like how we tried. I don't even know if it was ever proven. I didn't follow all the drama about the SOK, but were they behind the swatting? Even though the swatting was, what, 5 years out after This Is How You Don't Play came out? I mean, were they behind the DDoSing, all of it?
As a result,
as if that one DDoS destroyed his channel.
Just as much their actions as well. And basically doing all of that.
And if he's talking about the time, what was it, Be Awesome one? Did a copyright strike against Phil for all of that pre-stream fan art. Be Awesome isn't the one who took Phil out of the YouTube algorithm. That was Phil, because Phil decided to delete all of the videos and cost himself, what was it, like 5 million views in a day? He lost 5 million views in a day because he deleted like 1,000 videos. That was entirely Phil's fault.
In a way,
because he was trying to hide the evidence, essentially. Like he could have just waited for Machinima to talk to YouTube and handle the issue, but Phil's so fucking scared of the fucking wheels falling off the clown car that is his YouTube channel that he fucking deleted all the evidence, and the fucking judge said, all right, you're not getting, 2 years for sending death threats, you're getting 5 years for deleting your phone.
That number one covers facts, but also is
what fucking facts?
Because ultimately, the last thing you want to do is.
And why would Phil's version of reality be entertaining?
Documentary about someone that's boring. Okay, that Boogie documentary is sad. I don't want to make a documentary about me that's sad. What's the point?
What does he think it's going to be about?
Having a sob story about Dark Side Phil. My life is not a.
No one's crying about Boogie. People think he's pathetic. That's not the same as crying about him.
Sob story. It's interesting. People have said, would you ever write an autobiography or whatever? Maybe one day I would, but I never really thought about that. And then when I start talking to Mike, he's like, no, your story is interesting.
Oh, and here we go with my theory being proven correct, that Mike was greasing this fucking pig up. The guy who wanted to make a documentary about Phil just happens to think Phil's life is so fucking interesting. And he's trying to convince Phil to agree to the documentary. That's interesting.
The more I hear, the more I'm hooked. I want to hear more things.
Oh, he's just reeling them in.
About how this journey happened or whatever.
Reeling them in.
A crying situation about how awful things are. My life is not awful, right?
Greasing them up.
But it stands to reason that to actually have a fair documentary about me that covers everything, my whole history, not just the bullshit conspiracies and negative shit about me. Not to say that stuff won't be in it, but to cover everything fairly and, again, in an entertaining manner. That's really the key here.
I still don't know what Phil thinks is going to be so entertaining about his side of the story. Like he's going to, talk about how in 2017 or 2016 or whatever it was, he was a depressed alcoholic who was living with his fiance as a roommate, and then they broke up. Like, oh man, that's going to be a funny story. Wait till you guys hear about this time. I drank half a bottle of gin, and then I slapped Leanna in the face because she was a dumb bitch. Like, what's going to be funny about that? I mean, anyone?
Is to make something that you guys want to watch. That's not just for my haters. It's not just for my fans. It's actually for an outsider as well. Someone who's never heard of me, but you say, I hear the name Darkside Phil every once in a while. I wonder about this guy. What about, can I learn about him?
Well, if you look at the comments for the Side Scrollers interview, yeah, that's basically what it was.
This is the documentary you're going to watch. This hour or 2 hour, however long it ends up being. This is going to be your go-to piece of content to watch. All right? And you're going to watch it and say, okay, there you go. That's what he's about. And then you can judge for yourself. Hey, maybe you want to...
This judge for yourself shit, that was what he was saying about the interview. And look how that turned out.
Come by and check out my content based on the documentary. Or maybe you're zero...
Fucking no one will.
And that's okay too, right? But at the very least, this is really, it seems to me, okay, that this is the only chance that I really have to have a neutral party be involved in making something that actually is fair. That Side Scrollers interview was a complete attempt at getting me to look bad and getting me to confess to shit I didn't do.
Adam literally had no idea who you were. He hasn't watched, I doubt he's watched a single fucking video of yours. Craig, I know Phil likes to pretend, oh, Craig knew who I was. Craig couldn't pick Phil out of a fucking lineup. I mean, what, their interaction amounted to someone on Craig's staff sent Phil an invite to be a guest at a convention that they never met. They passed each other in the hall once at another convention. Phil was a paying member to their website, and Phil attended another Screw Attack gaming convention as a paying attendee. What? And Phil thinks that makes them like best of friends or some shit.
There was no point to doing it, but I didn't know that at the time. I was promised all these things, and it was all lies, all bullshit, right? The whole thing was basically a front for them.
Front? My God, Phil, you're acting like none of what happened was because of the interview. Like, they spent 5 hours talking to you and came away thinking they never really wanted to interact with you again.
To propel themselves to popularity, which, yeah, that really worked.
I mean, they're more popular than you are, Phil.
Get it? Like, something like this is different. And that's what I mean, like, what you guys don't understand, because I know...
Like, Side Scrollers has a 200,000 view video. And what, Phil's... I think what it was, 2D2 Will did a recap of the year for Phil's views, and I think his highest viewed video was like 10,000 views. And he's talking about how they're not popular.
Most people are reacting negatively to it, and fair enough. And I understand why. Here's why.
Sip, sip, sip.
I've never gotten a fair shake before.
That should tell you something, Phil.
You're right. Every single person has screwed me over. Whoever tried, tried to do something, right?
And he fucking hasn't learned anything.
Now, here's the thing. Does this...
He doesn't even realize it.
That there's no one going to be involved negatively? Of course not. They're going to be in there.
I mean, Mike Clum is literally on Kiwi Farms asking people to tell him what should be in the fucking documentary. And Phil thinks this is going to be fucking fair and balanced.
Everyone's going to be in this thing. I mean it. Everyone who's is going to be in this damn thing. It's going to be entertaining for that very reason. But here's the thing. I get to respond to all the bullshit.
You already do, Phil. You do it several hours a day in these pre-stream therapy sessions. What the only thing that's going to be different, and he's not saying it out loud, but I think this is what he's thinking, is he's going to be able to say it in front of what, millions of people. I don't know how many views the Boogie documentary has right now, but I'll guess it's probably a couple million. So that's what Phil means when he gets, now I get to respond, aka now I get to respond in front of millions of people.
Right? When you get one of these talking head idiots on there saying something about me, I get to talk back. It's not just them yelling at their audience and their audience saying, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Instead,
That's your audience, Phil.
Respond to their bullshit.
I mean, he tried this with the side scrollers decompression stream they did the day after. Phil tried to do a react to that, and he could barely watch 2 minutes of that. Like, he was constantly skipping forward. He just kept skipping forward and was like, oh, okay, Adam said something stupid, idiot. You like that?
See? And that's the point, is that this is my format to finally do it. I can respond to them. But if I respond to them here, no one hears it.
And there we go.
If I respond to them in the documentary, now
millions of people will silly.
Just heard the toxicity gets to hear my response to it. You see?
That's what happened in the side scrollers interview, and fucking no one believed Phil. The people who had problems with the side scrollers interview, they had problems with the fact that they were kind of tone policing Phil about the jokes he was making. Like, that was the biggest problem they had with the interview, was that they felt it was kind of hypocritical from those guys to talk about how Phil shouldn't be making certain kinds of jokes. But no one, I mean, I've looked through a lot of the comments on that video. I don't think there was anyone that said, wow, Phil came across like a totally truthful individual.
And again, I want you to understand something. This is not going to be ultra serious at all times. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a project that is going to have a lot of content, the kind of which you've not seen from me. Okay? It's not just going to be me sitting here on my chair doing games and talking to you. What's the point? If literally the whole documentary
then what is the documentary going to be?
Well, here's the truth about that. Here's the truth about that. That's boring. No one cares about that.
Even though he does that every fucking day.
Right?
Good job calling your own content boring, Phil.
Here, all right? And my goal is that when this thing comes out, okay? When this thing comes out, I want it to be the final go-to source for people to learn about me and my story, and that's that. Because I don't want to hear any more bullshit from these people. Not to say that they're not going to continue, because they will. It will always continue. We know this, that these people are so desperate for content. When you have no talent, you have to milk others for content, correct?
Man, Phil, why do you think I do these videos? Why do you think anyone does these videos about you? Like, desperate for content. I upload maybe one video a fucking month if I'm lucky. Like, I do this fucking shit because Phil drives me crazy with just the bullshit he does. And, like, I need a fucking outlet for that shit.
Because you have
fucking please
to make for yourself, so you have to milk the world around you for content in a toxic way.
Then what the fuck is this fucking DSP gaming if he's not just milking the work of others? Like, what is a video game streamer if they're not milking all the hard work of other people? I don't know, maybe that's a toxic thing to say, but, like, what does Phil think video game streamers are doing?
They're never going to go away. But at the very least, once this story is out, it's done for me, and I can actually move on positively and say, you want answers about anything of my past or anything, go watch the Mike Clum documentary.
And he was saying, just a couple months ago, go watch the Side Scroller podcast that has all the answers you'll need. And now that a guy that made like a 1 million view video wants to talk to him, suddenly, actually it's the next thing, guys, that's gonna be the last one. This fucking hype train piece of shit.
And leave me alone, because I'm moving forward with my audience here, right? Will anything positive come out of it?
Nope.
I don't know. We'll see.
It's going to be exactly the same as the Boogie documentary.
See. But the thing is, there's so much toxicity and negativity about me on the internet. I don't think it could hurt, right? Really, honestly.
He said the same fucking thing about the side scrollers interview. How does he not get it?
You guys are not going anywhere. You guys are here every day. You understand me and who I am in the
Is
content.
this a fucking
My core audience
cult meeting?
with me no matter what. You know the truth. I've already told the stories, right? You're gonna get.
I mean, do they know the truth?
Get some good stuff out of this documentary. Trust me. There's going to be funny scenes. There's going to be.
This really makes me a little concerned about the video, about the documentary, that Phil's constantly talking about, oh, there's going to be all these funny scenes, as if he's going to fucking fake it for the camera, right? Like he's setting up that he's going to be making I don't know, maybe making a fool of himself for the camera, or maybe trying to do all of this funny, like, improv comedy skits and stuff. Like, he's setting up that the video is going to be fake as shit. I don't know if he's doing that intentionally, or this is fucking Mike just greasing him up, saying, yeah, Phil, it's totally going to be different than the Boogie documentary. Just make sure you sign the paper here. I don't know.
Information you've never heard before. You know what I'm saying?
Like what?
There's going to be interesting stuff, all right? And again, I totally understand, because there's people in the chat right now who are like, I don't trust it. I think it's, I hear
those people have brains on their fucking head.
Because we as a community, and I've said this before, it's not just about
fucking
me. It's about
we
us,
shit.
right? Everything that I do has an impact on everyone around me, and I know that. So when I did that Side Scrollers interview, it wasn't just a shitty situation for me. It was a shitty situation for the community for like 2-3 months, right?
Ow. He keeps saying that like, oh, our community was so negatively affected by this horrible fucking interview I did. Like, what? Someone came in every once in a while and trolled you about the interview? That somehow, what, like, Derek got really upset? Like, what is he talking about?
And I hear you on that. This is very different from everything that I'm involved with. It's professional, right? I've got, there's agreements in place. You know what I mean? Like, this is
not all. How can he not put it together? That's the part I don't get. This guy was supposedly like when he graduated college, he was, what, selling fake insurance or something. And here he is, fucking getting greased up like a pig by Mike right before he signs. I mean, this happened with Machinima as well. How has this guy not learned?
On the up and up, going to be something that's going to be fun and fair. I'm not saying this, by the way, by no means whatsoever is this kind of a kiss my ass thing either. I want you to understand that.
Yeah, it's going to be the Boogie 2.0 one.
Documentary where Phil just looks good constantly.
I don't know how they would make that video.
I made many mistakes over the years, being a YouTuber way before then as well, and I've fessed up to them. The thing is, no one hears. No one.
No, you've half-assed fessed up to him. I mean, he did it earlier when he was like, or when he did the fucking Street Fighter shit, where he's like, yeah, sometimes, when I insult people, I'm just venting. I'm venting my frustration in life. It's like, what? No, you're calling someone a fucking scamming, cheating piece of shit cami player because what? Your wife fucking fell down the stairs? What? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Here's that Phil admitted he did something wrong. Instead, it's just he's this pig-headed guy who says that he's the best guy ever, right? That's not the case, but
no, that's literally the case.
The truth. You understand what I'm saying? So,
if no one heard the truth, they would listen to detractor videos and realize detractors were full of shit and stop listening to them. Except the exact opposite happens. Detractors are bigger than fucking ever, and Phil's channel is smaller than fucking ever. Fucking totally the opposite of what Phil thinks.
Worry as much as you do, especially.
You need to worry, Phil.
I'm in a situation here where it's very different from everything else. It's not, it's just an interview. It's just this.
What?
This is a situation where it's going to be done in a very professional way. All right.
So was the Boogie interview. So was the Boogie documentary, and that did not make him look good.
And it's going to actually give my side. It's going to give
The Boogie documentary gave Boogie's side, and I don't think that helped anything.
exclusive information and stuff that you haven't heard. Um,
Such as what? I don't know. I imagine he's probably maybe he's thinking of how he's gonna fucking scam the WWE Champions account. He's gonna provide a fucking I don't know screenshot of fucking Cat's account or some shit. That's how it's gonna be his big fucking reveal. He's gonna fucking scam this Mike Clum guy.
it's going to be very different. Let's put it that way. All right. And by the way, because I know some people are really worried about this, it's something that's not happening right away. This is something that is going to take months and months to put together.
Why does that make it okay? It's like, oh man, I'm not getting shot in the back today, guys. I'm getting stabbed in the back tomorrow. What? Why does it matter that's going to be out in a couple months?
Something of this scale and magnitude. You know, this is basically kind of a Netflix level hour-long documentary about me, and it's going to take a lot of time. There's going to be filming, there's going to be all kinds of things that's going to happen. So, to be transparent with all of you, yes, this is going to affect me this year. There's going to be filming around here. There's going to be filming in studios. You know what I say? It's going to be a high-level thing. This is not fucking around and just doing a few video clips edited together like all the other documentaries about me. This is actually a real product. You understand?
Which is fucking weird. Because I doubt Mike Clum's going to be paying him anything, or maybe certainly not a lot of money, I would think. But remember, it was just a couple months ago, Phil was talking about how he was nearly living in the streets because he missed 2.5 days with his possible certain coughing illness that might have been something. But apparently he can take multiple days off to film this fucking documentary? What? He wouldn't take Keemstars off for $50,000 to do, what, one podcast a week at most? But he'll let Mike Clum fucking come in his house, fucking come in his wife, film fucking his life for days on end, interrupt, what, maybe a dozen fucking streams of his? Make Phil leave to go to a fucking office to film more bullshit? And he won't get paid a fucking penny for that? Or maybe a couple of that? This doesn't make any fucking sense, Phil.
So coming up, and I don't have all the information yet. I will let you know. Okay? Basically this is going to be a situation where I have to take a little bit of time away from streaming. Some of my streams will be affected. Obviously, they're going to want to film me at work to see me at what I'm doing to put
I can't wait for that.
Right?
I mean, that has been... I mean, how many detractors have prayed to God above that we could be a fly on the wall while Phil's doing his bullshit with the camera, well, on the other side of the camera? Of course, he's going to be so fucking fake. See, that's why I'm worried about it when he says it's going to be so fucking funny and so interesting and is that he's going to fucking clown mode to the fucking moon on those streams when fucking Mike and his video cameras are there, sitting at just to the left of the frame in the doorway, watching Phil. He goes, oh, well, we got a $10 tip. Whoa! And he fucking pulls out, 16 different bubble machines and fucking does a fucking dance or some shit. He's like, yeah, guys, that's what my stream looks like every day. Fucking bullshit. I mean, that's one of the things I'm worried about with this documentary.
There's going to be a few days where I'm not going to be able to stream because I'm going to have to go film a bunch of stuff, right, in a studio or other places or whatever. So when I know all about that stuff, all right, I'm going to let you guys know what's going on. So you'll know, okay, this week, guys, 2 days, I'm not going to be here on stream because I'm going to be off filming. And then
2 days?
Back, right?
Probably going to be a couple of hours. Let's not sell ourselves too high here, Phil.
And also, I would just want to let you guys know, I can't be spoiling this thing constantly because people are going to constantly be bombarding me with questions. So what's going to be in it, and what's going to be this, and what's going to be that, and what, you know what I mean?
I wonder if they've actually already
Can't
done
do
some
it,
of
you
this
know what I'm
stuff.
saying? Like, I can't be
Makes you
spoiling
wonder.
the whole dang thing.
They've
So,
been
like,
talking about it for months.
I'm not going to spoil the whole. What's the point of it if I tell you everything we're doing in it?
Because there was a bit of a Mike went on Review Tech USA's stream and talked a little bit about it, and he's like, "Oh, I can't really tell you guys what's going to be in it." Yeah, he said the same thing Phil's saying here, so it makes me wonder if these guys have already. And Mike already admitted that he's met Phil in person, so I wonder if they've already done quite a bit of filming.
Right. So if from time to time, as I'm working on it over the course of 2024, there's some stuff that I want to share with you. Maybe there's a behind the scenes clip or video that I want to share, or
That makes me really suspicious that he's talking about, oh, maybe I'll have a clip or something that I'll be able to release that will hype up the upcoming video. Almost as if he and Mike have already talked about doing this. I don't know. Maybe that's too conspiracy theory.
picture or something to show you, hey, we're working together, and here's, you know, you know what I'm saying? Then we should absolutely do that to share, but it's not going to be spoiling the entirety of the whole thing. There's a ton of things in here.
No one's asking for it to be spoiled.
It's going to be 100% under wraps, exciting stuff you're only going to see in this documentary. Again, the whole point is to get everyone who wants to learn about me to watch this thing. I think it's going to be fascinating.
And they didn't already watch the side scrollers?
See how people have reacted to it. You know what I'm saying? Like, look at all these people on the internet who crap on Phil, right? But
is Phil going to be mad when Mike and his production company make thousands of dollars off the documentary? Like he was with side scrollers? Is he going to be mad? Because I bet Keemstar is somehow got his fucking fingers in this pie. How mad is Phil going to be when he finds out Keemstar did something with this? How mad is he going to be when those guys show off? Yeah, we made $50,000 from sponsorships on the video with Phil. Makes you wonder.
For what? Right? It's fascinating. And also, one of the things that I want to get out of it, I can't wait to hear I want to hear people's take on, like, what they think I do wrong and how I can actually improve.
Well, I don't know, Phil. There's maybe 15 years of content on YouTube about people doing that shit.
Because that's the funny part, is everyone always wants to constantly crap on you, but no one actually wants to help you. You know what I mean?
Because you're a scumbag piece of shit who makes Phil. You're in the top 10% of income earners in America, asking for fucking handouts every day. You're wondering why no one wants to fucking help you. Help you what? Like, help you what? Fuck off.
I'm saying you're doing everything wrong. Okay, so what should I be doing that would be right?
I don't know. Not scam your friends? How about that idea? You know, don't tell your friends you don't have any money to pay them and then roll up in a BMW. I mean, is that a good idea? How about when someone says, "Hey, Phil, how about you don't make a joke about Jesus being a zombie because I too am a Catholic and Jesus means a lot to me." And then Phil responds, maybe you shouldn't respond, Phil, by saying, "Oh, just get over it, man. Jesus ain't that important." Maybe you shouldn't do that, Phil. I mean, that's just a couple ideas off the top of my head. You know, maybe stop being a lying scumbag piece of shit. That's my advice, Phil.
Be just like you? Maybe I don't want to be you, right?
Being different isn't good, Phil. Isn't inherently good. Being different can be good, but the inherent fact of being different does not mean you are good.
Right? Not everyone wants to be exactly the same. So there's going to be a lot of interesting.
It says the fucking guy that just recently released a fucking React channel. Man, fuck off.
Things out of this, right? There is, absolutely. So basically, there's going to be tons of different stuff in this thing, tons. All right, and
I imagine that's Mike greasing the pig up again, telling, "Oh yeah, Phil, we're gonna have so much fair and balanced stuff in this documentary." And sure, I'm sure he said the exact same fucking thing to Boogie.
as I said, I'll let you know when I have more information. Okay, I don't have all.
I bet he already has a bunch of information,
to,
and he and Mike are keeping their powder dry, so to speak.
We basically have to get to the point where things are hashed out dates wise. So I can tell you right now, it won't even be soon. Like it'll probably at the earliest a couple of months.
I find that hard to believe. Mike's been talking to this guy on the phone since November. He's met him in person. So if you take Phil at his word that it's a couple of months before they start doing the actual filming and stuff, and he actually, in the start of that time frame was actually November. So I guess in the next couple of weeks, Phil's actually going to be doing this stuff. So he's just bullshitting him for some fucking reason.
Even start work on this thing when it comes to like filming and in-person stuff. So it's not like, oh, well, you just gave us a schedule for the month and now everything's different. No. This probably won't even be until...
He's not going to tell people exactly when it happens.
Probably some more, and I'm to understand.
He's bullshitting.
This is something that's going to come out much later in the year. This is not something that's, again, this
is because they have to edit it.
This is not...
Editing's the hard part, not filming. What?
And it's just edited clips. That's not the intention, okay? So this is a big endeavor. You know, I told you guys I have a lot of things in process for 2024. DSP Throwback is one of them.
Which Phil's not doing any fucking work on. Oh my god, I should do a video about that one too. But for the short part of it for DSP Throwback is someone else is going to be taking Phil's videos, throwing them into an AI upscaler and some sort of AI voice or noise reduction something, and then they're going to re-upload them on Phil's channel so Phil can make several $100s a month, supposedly. Man, that's going to be such fucking dog shit.
And that's the one that's coming the soonest. This documentary about me is another one, and that's coming later, much later in the year. Like I would, you know, maybe summer, maybe fall. I don't know. It depends on a lot.
He probably knows. He's lying about something.
So we'll have to see.
He just randomly went into siege mode talking about when this documentary is coming out, and he says, "Oh, I don't know when it's coming out." Then why'd you go into siege mode?
But just so you know, it's coming, and when more stuff is available to talk about, specifics and stuff that we're ready to talk about, I'm sure Mike and I will tell everybody.
The only reason he's doing this podcast is because Mike went out by himself and started mentioning stuff, and then Phil and people talked to Phil, asking him for his side of it. So, I don't know. Something's not adding up here.
Okay? So, you can ask me questions, but chances are I'm not going to answer a lot of these questions.
Just like the side-scrollers where he got really fucking mad that they told people ahead of time that Phil was going to be their guest. Like, I bet he wanted Mike to never mention he was doing this documentary until the day the video came out. I bet he was begging Mike to do that. But of course, Mike wanted to hit the iron while it's hot, so to speak. And while he was still popular from the Boogie thing, he wanted to mention the next thing he was doing.
Until specifics are hashed out and we're ready to talk about it. Because I feel like...
You've already talked about it, Phil. What are you talking about?
People want to just get everything in early. I'm not going to tell you everything early, right? But
except you just did.
Make this perfectly clear.
Like he was just saying, oh, we haven't even started filming, according to Phil. And he's already talking about what's going to be in the documentary. Something's not adding up, Phil.
This is not the Boogie documentary at all.
Yeah, it's not going to be about a sad, pathetic man who wasted away everything he's ever earned from YouTube, who has a crippling health problem behind the scenes that he's not being fully honest about. He didn't recently just pick up another girlfriend who happens to be a lot younger than him. And, oh wait. I have a feeling it's going to be exactly the fucking same.
This is not the intention of the book.
Oh yeah, I forgot the part about how he lives a completely toxic, drama-filled lifestyle and can't keep himself out of it. Was I talking about Phil or Boogie? Does anyone remember?
Documentary. That whole documentary had a different vibe and a different take to it, and that's where basically Boogie and Mike wanted to go with that. And this is completely different. I made it very clear up front. I'm not Boogie. I'm not some sad story where we're gonna be talking about how awful my fucking life is and everything. I don't want a sob story documentary. There's no sob story.
What about, because he was just talking recently about, what was it, 2016, 2017? He was drinking heavily every single day. He was living a fake fucking engagement with Leanna. What part of that story isn't sad? What part of, like, the entire, according to Phil, take this what you will, according to Phil, the entire reason he even connected with Catherine in the first place is because they were both dealing with behind the scenes issues, or however you worded it. Phil was dealing with his fucking crippling alcoholism that he somehow got over, and Kat was dealing with her abusive boyfriend. What part of that story isn't sad, Phil? Or how about the bankruptcy you had to go through? What part of that isn't sad? Because, like, if it was a legitimate bankruptcy, that would be a very sad thing, is that, oh, I had to put all of my fucking personal life out there in front of a judge and beg for people to forgive me. How's that not a sad story? Unless, I don't know, maybe Phil scammed the bankruptcy court, allegedly. In which case, it's actually a positive story of Phil getting away with it. Wasn't that a phrase he used earlier in the video? He was getting away with it? Makes you wonder.
My life is good. I have a good life every day. I have a great time with my audience. We all have a bunch of fun. All the idiots outside.
Even though he just fucking had that New Year's resolution that he's going to be less toxic playing Street Fighter, but he's always having fun. Square that circle, Phil.
Of my streams are the ones who are miserable, have to talk shit all day, not me.
They spend all day laughing at you, Phil. What do you mean that they don't enjoy it? Like, you're the one getting super fucking frustrated and mad playing fucking Street Fighter, and everyone in Piece of Peace's stream is just laughing at you. Just completely laughing at you about how you, oh, fucking Cammy did the fucking pattern of fucking walk up throw, and then walk up throw, and then walk up throw, and then walk up throw. How was I supposed to know she was doing that? Come on, man. This guy's so fucking delusional.
Great time with my life. So there's, you know what I'm saying? There's nothing in this that's going to be, oh my God. Not to say that we're not going to touch upon serious stuff from my past. You guys know about my history. You know about all the problems and trials and tribulations I've been through, business-wise and personal. I've told you all these stories before, but again, this is going to be the focused place where I talk about it, right?
So, what part of the John and Howard story is going to be not a sad story about you losing your closest friends? What part of that isn't going to be a sad, pathetic story similar to Boogie's? Like, oh, man, these guys were such great friends. They fucking traveled to conventions. And then one day, Phil decided to try and work with them to make this, web series. And instead of giving them $100, Phil decided to buy a BMW. And they fucking got fed up with him. Like, I really want to know, is there any way to frame Phil's story in a way that it isn't a sad, pathetic life? Like, oh man, there was this guy. He was the, third highest viewed YouTuber in 2013, or 2011 or something? Oh man. And then within 2 years, he was begging people for money. Is that a happy story? Like, if you remember the machinima thing he did, what part of that was happy? Like, machinima didn't do anything for him because he never did anything for machinima, right? Like, oh, machinima sent me to fucking E3 one year, and they never did again. Is that a happy story? Like, oh man, I met Leanna, and after moving her literally to the other side of the country, we broke up within 2 years. Is that a happy story? Like, I don't know. Like, I can't believe he's this delusional. Like, what part of his story is happy? Like, I guess you could maybe say he finally found Kat. I mean, that's kind of happy. I mean, granted, the fact, Phil talked about in the side scrollers about how she had a restraining order against her ex-boyfriend that Phil mentioned out of nowhere. I don't know if that certainly doesn't make it a happy story. Maybe it has a happy ending, but like, are they going to mention like, yeah, look at these hospital records of Kat's bruises, and then she found Phil? Is that a happy story? I mean, allegedly, I have no idea. There's some still questions about the restraining order from Kat's ex-boyfriend. So I'm just kind of making stuff up here right now. I'm not actually. I have no idea if this stuff actually happened. But I'm just saying, like, what? Like, oh man, are they going to mention Jenna? Is that a happy story? Like, Phil's wife's sister is fucking homeless in a van, 200 miles from Phil. She fucking has to whore herself out on OnlyFans and fucking work as an escort while she's homeless. Oh man, that's a fun story. What part of Phil's story is fun? I mean, that's partly what makes him so interesting, is that he's so delusional. Like, his story is sad. Like, he is basically as pathetic as Boogie, but he's so narcissistic, he literally thinks he's the king of the jesters.
Right? All at once. And if you want to know anything about Dark Side Phil, this is where you go for it. And as I said, my intention is that this is it. Once this is done, this is a lot of time and effort and work going into this thing. This is going to be time away from my work, time away from streams for you guys. Once this is done, that is that. You know what?
But Phil never plans on stopping being a YouTuber. So what happens in 15 years when he's still making YouTube videos and he hasn't really changed and he's still a piece of shit and he's, called someone else an idiot on the YouTube and someone makes a video about it? Is he going to say, oh, guys, watch that 2020, it's going to be 2035, and he's going to say, guys, did you see that Mike Clum video from 2024? He came out 11 years ago? Yeah, that answers everything.
What I'm saying, that is that. It's done.
I mean, unless this guy fucking plans on dying within the next 5 years.
Unless, like, aliens land and I have a story of how I fought the aliens or something. You know?
Oh, not this fucking exaggeration shit.
Story to be told. And after this, I just want to continue to do what I love for a living and not have to bother with this shit anymore. But I feel like this is my fair chance to have a fun, informative, interesting documentary be made.
Nothing fun about your life, Phil.
Rather than it just be hit piece, hit piece, hit piece, hit piece, or even worse than that. You want to know what's worse than a hit piece? Because here's the thing. With a hit piece, all right, you can tell when it's a hit piece, right? When you watch someone who really doesn't like someone and they're making negative content, you can tell this is a hit piece.
Man, did the fucking History Channel make hit pieces about the fucking Austrian man? Is that what they were doing? Or were they just talking about facts and things that actually happened? Like when the History Channel talks about Stalin's gulags, is that a hit piece? I mean, I know Phil's not literally a communist dictator sending millions of people to their deaths, but like, it's such a stupid fucking argument that, oh man, my fucking sad, pathetic life, people make, like, he's the king of hate, and fucking people are calling him the king of hate, and that's apparently a hit piece or some shit.
And
fuck off.
You're gonna have normal people watch a hit piece. The only people who watch that stuff are people who actually don't like the person already, and they just kind of want to laugh at piling on, right?
You should really go read some of the comments on the side scrollers video, Phil. I mean, there's a lot of people that were angry about them kind of tone policing Phil's jokes, which fair enough. But most of the comments were people who had no idea who the fuck you were. Like, it did not get 200,000 views from people who are detractors. The fucking Frederick Knudsen video with its interesting 6 million number views, those aren't all detractors. I mean, maybe they turned into detractors, but there certainly aren't 6 million of us making videos.
There's tons of people out there who don't like me. Their entire existence on the internet is anti-Phil. What's worse than a hit piece is someone who presents themselves as if they're a neutral party and doing it fairly, but literally all they do is regurgitate
sneak dissing Turkey Tom
that the hit piece people did.
How about you have some fucking courage and just say Turkey Tom's a piece of shit, Phil?
But they'll, oh, you see, well, this is what everyone says about him. Yeah, but all you did was regurgitate the bad. Did you actually say anything good?
What good is there? I mean, this goes back to the side scrollers thing. Literally no one responded to them and provided a good side of your story, Phil. Literally no one.
Did you talk to a single person about good stuff about me? Or did you only just literally regurgitate the same boring shit that everyone said for the last 10 years? So why'd you even make your fucking video besides circle jerking yourselves into those communities for more milking of money? Because the...
How much money does he think is in this detractor community? That's what I want to know. I mean, Phil makes more... I would hazard a guess that Phil makes more money than the entire detractor community. And I mean just on their detractor content. Right? Just from like ads and super chats and tips specifically about detractor content. I mean, I don't know how much money Tevin makes on Twitch, playing his games and stuff. I don't know anything about that, and I'm not talking about, how much, Piece of Peace makes at his real job. But I think Phil might actually make more than the entire detractor community.
The funny part is they say lol cows, right? But the thing is, when as much as they say they're milking someone for content, you want to know who they're really milking? The detractors.
Again, how much money does he think is in that? Like, I know side scrollers made what, $2,000 in one stream? YouTube took 30% of that, and they've never made that much money talking about Phil ever again. Meanwhile, Phil pulls down $10,000 a month from his fucking den heads.
Every moment that one of those people make one of those...
I mean, Phil spent $2,000 in one weekend on a WWE Champions event right before he got married. So how much money does he think there is in this? I mean, at this point, I think more detractor, because there's a bunch of new people in the detractor community, I think there might be more people that don't have monetization that make videos about Phil than do.
Documentaries, all they're doing is milking the detractors for their views and money. Because my fans don't care. I don't care. I don't even watch it.
Maybe you should. I mean, he just talked about like, oh, no one gives me suggestions on how to change. Well, if you're not watching the videos, how would you ever get that?
Them that they're milking, not me. Yeah, sure, it's about me, but you literally didn't even say anything new. All you did was regurgitate the toxic shit, and you milk them for money and views. Not me. It doesn't come from me.
No, it does. What? The entire video is about you. If you want to extend the metaphor, they're milking... They're taking the milk from Phil and selling it to people. That's the metaphor.
You know what I'm saying? So
If you want to take it that far.
yes, this documentary will absolutely address some of the conspiracies and toxic things that are said about me. 100% those will be addressed. But at the same
What does it mean to be addressed? Like, are we going to see the homepage of Phil's WWE Champions account? Is he going to talk to Phil about why'd you write $5,000 a month on your bankruptcy form for your ordinary and necessary business expenses? Because they did a budget of a day in the life of Boogie where like he spent $20 at McDonald's and then he spent $50 to go to a what was it, a Magic the Gathering tournament, and then he spent $1,400 on his mortgage or whatever it was. I don't remember exactly, but like they did a breakdown of like what an average, daily expense or daily budget for Boogie looks like. Can they do that with Phil? Is he going to give him that information?
same time, there's going to be the more fair human aspect to it, addressing me as a person, my history, what I stand for.
Does Phil stand for other than himself? I mean, that if you want to get, Phil's political takes, basically, give me more and I'll do less. Phil's entire political philosophy.
What kind of content I put out today versus what everyone claims I put out 15 years ago. You know what I mean?
What was that statement?
What kind of content I put out today versus what everyone claims I put out 15 years ago.
But he himself says the content 15 years ago was bad. What does he mean? People claim I put out 15 years ago. Phil's entire argument is that he's changed from the content he put out 15 years ago. He's fucking talking all over himself and has no idea what he's fucking talking about.
Very different, all right? So, like I said, I will have way more information about this as it develops. Right now, it's too early to give you any specifics, nor would I really want to give you specifics, because
he's already talked with this guy in person.
Too much, and I'm going to have meetings with Mike where we're going to
already has
discuss things, and then we're going to have filming sessions and stuff, and I'm going to keep...
I bet he already has some.
So you know what to expect with all of that, because I want you to know when I'm going to be here, when I'm not going to be here, what's going on, okay? And like I said, there will absolutely be stuff that will likely be shared with you over the course of the year, whether it's I could put out an exclusive clip on the channel as a preview of something that will be in this project. And
that's... I don't know why it would be on Phil's channel. The documentary is not going to be on Phil's channel. I mean, they will probably let him put out some stuff, but they're probably going to post it on their channel or their social media first before they let Phil post any of it.
To get you guys hyped up for it. Because, again, it's not just for people...
Get hyped up. Phil's, audience of 200 people when they're trying to get like 1 million fucking views? Fucking delusional.
Like me. It's not just for people who like me. This is for everyone. This is supposed to be...
Then why would they put it on your video, on your channel, Phil?
Learn all kinds of stuff about me if you just heard the name Dark Side Phil. Maybe you only saw one clip of me ever and you want to hear my story. That's what the point of this documentary is, you see? So there you go. So now the beans have been spilled to the point where at least you have a general understanding.
A general understanding that Phil doesn't realize fucking Mike is about to milk this guy like a stuck fucking pig. Oh my god. Assuming Mike didn't completely fall for the pignosis, just the way he just greased this guy up and fucking flattered him about, oh, Phil, your life is so interesting. Please, just sign on the dotted line. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be such a fair interview, Phil. Make sure you sign on that dotted line. Oh, yeah, it's not going to be like that Boogie documentary we just did, even though it's the same fucking group of people making it. Just make sure you sign on the dotted line, Phil. Come on now, how?
Of what this is going to be, all right? And again, the funny part about this is when people say stuff like, well, I think that Mike is going to try to screw you. How?
How could he not?
Like, why would he do that? Because if he does, who else would ever work with this guy ever again?
Desperate people? That, for one. people as fucking delusional and narcissistic as Phil, who fucking saw that Boogie documentary. I doubt he saw the Boogie documentary. But if Phil was able to be honest about himself and saw that Boogie documentary, how does he not know that the documentary about him is going to be exactly the same? How is he that delusional?
Right? If Mike becomes known as the guy who screws people when he makes a documentary about them, well, who would ever want to work with Mike ever again? Do you think he's doing it for a one-off video and he's running and never?
I mean, people actually thought that about the Boogie documentary. Like, this guy came basically out of nowhere and dropped this kind of amazing documentary. Amazing in the sense of how well it was done, not in, amazing as in it made Boogie look like a good person.
Content ever again? That doesn't make any sense. He wants to make good content that everyone's
good content doesn't mean that he doesn't dump on his subjects.
Happy, right? That's the point.
I mean, how many desperate people are there like Phil who would, I mean, the entire reason he did the Side Scrollers interview was he was desperate. The entire reason he's doing this documentary is because he's desperate to turn his image around and he's willing to take the chance. Or he's been so fucking gaslit into thinking it's going to be a fucking hand job from Mike that he actually is willing to do it.
So there you go. Okay? All right, so anyway, that's that. Now, I have a few quick shout-outs to do.
All right, so fucking Christ. This is a long fucking video. I mean, some of you guys have been asking for longer videos, so I hope you like this one. But, yeah, I can't believe either Mike has fallen completely for the pig gnosis, which I find hard to believe. I mean, you would have to be... I don't think you could make a documentary kind of thing like they did with Boogie and be that dented that you would believe everything Phil says. Like, I just don't think that's possible. So I think he was just gassing Phil up. Just pouring gallon after gallon on this guy. Because the idea that, if you remember the part where Phil's like, yeah, the Boogie documentary, it's going to be nothing like mine. I mean, the Boogie documentary was about a guy, fell off and made so much money, and then he fell off, and then he's just sad, and he has health issues, and he just can't stay out of the drama. Meanwhile, Phil is signing up for a documentary about him? What? I mean, how can Phil just be this delusional about his own existence? I don't get it, man. That's kind of why I had to do this video. It's just, I couldn't believe what Phil was saying. I still can't. Like, I just went over the whole fucking thing, gave my opinions about it, and I'm still kind of blown away. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll go back and do the, the video about the DSP classics. So, I don't know. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully I'll catch you in the next one.